When I was 11, I rode my bike a lot, almost every day. It was a normal day when I went out riding with my friend. We were riding for a couple hours, and then my friend had to go home early. I still had time to kill, so I rode on my own for a bit, but then I noticed a white Volkswagen not too far away from me. At first I thought nothing of it, then I got weirded out every turn I made. The car kept following me. As someone who has a dad who taught me about kidnapping and what to do if something goes wrong, I began to ride faster. Then the car stopped next to me. A really hairy man came out. He smelled really bad, but I did not cover my nose because that would be rude. He asked if I was okay, and I said yes. Then he said, "Your parents told me to take you to your grandma's." Alarm bells started to go off in my head. "My grandma died 4 years ago," I said. This guy's face grew red. He looked like somebody who had just got caught lying. He tried to grab me, but I quickly rode off. At this point, I was crying while riding to my parents. I told them. My dad called the police, and my mom tried to calm me down. The police came and searched the area. They did not find him anywhere. I didn't ride my bike for weeks, and I didn't start riding by myself until I was 14. I'm okay now, but this is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. I think I was almost kidnapped by a fake church group. A little less than a year ago now, I had gone to a Walmart on the side of town I happened to be on. It wasn't a good part of town, but I only needed a few things. I did my shopping, and as I was walking to my car, which was pretty far back in the lot, I saw a group of 5 or 6 men walking up the lot. They were all wearing matching purple shirts with a cross on the front and some kind of slogan. They looked at me, and one of the men made a comment towards me about how attractive I was. I laughed nervously and thanked him, walking past the group and continuing towards my car with my cart. They followed me from a distance. When I got to my car and was putting my groceries in the back seat, one of the men approached me and offered to put my case of water in my car for me. I get very frightened around men due to a lot of things in my past that I won't get into, but I'm afraid of rejecting them. So, of course, I cautiously let him. Another one of the men offered to take my cart for me. At this point, I was walking around the back side of my car to get into the driver's seat, and the other men were hanging back a bit, but watching me and the other guy that was by my vehicle. He tried to talk to me more, but I was scared and got into my car and told him I needed to get going. He seemed reluctant, but he let me leave. But before I did, he handed me a little sheet of printer paper that was seemingly homemade with printed church info on the sheet. He walked away with the other men, and I sped off. I was totally freaked out. Later that evening, I told my dad about it and gave him the paper. Turns out the website and Facebook page on the paper didn't even exist. There was a phone number as well, but I didn't dare call it. I didn't want any of them to have my phone number in case they were ill-intentioned. I think that day I narrowly dodged being kidnapped. I don't know what else all of that could have been, but never in my life has a church group or anyone spreading the word of God approached me on my attractiveness. This one is a story from myself personally. When I was 18, I decided to take a leap and move to Los Angeles to pursue my dreams of acting. I went to a performing arts college in the heart of Hollywood, and if anyone has ever been there, you know that it is nowhere near as glamorous as the television will like you to believe. On the streets are a sea of homeless people who don't mind pulling down their pants and taking a fat shit right on the sidewalk. Drug dealers offering you crack right in front of your school, or worst of all, hipsters. I'm joking about that part. The hipsters actually aren't so bad. Now back to the story. It was a typical normal afternoon on the streets of Hollyweird. My friends and I had planned to go to the beach, so we all packed up our belongings and agreed to meet at the 7-Eleven near campus to buy drinks and snacks for the day. After all that was done, we called an Uber and waited outside for it to show up. We joked around and were making chit-chat when I noticed a middle-aged, chubby-looking man staring at my friends from inside his car. Some of my friends were girls, and since I'm a guy, I figured his persistent gaze wasn't directed towards me. They had their backs turned to him, so they didn't see when he got out of his car with the ripped piece of paper, his gaze still fixed upon them. He moved towards the front of his vehicle to place the paper on his windshield and use it for support to write something down on it. While all of this is happening, he is looking back up and down from the paper, still fixing his gaze on them as if they're going to disappear if he loses sight of them. He finally finishes what he's writing and begins to approach them from behind. I started to tense up because I didn't know what he had planned, especially since we were a group of pretty small teenagers living in the heart of Hollyweird. He gets their attention by gently grabbing one of my friend's shoulders to get her to turn around. He then hands them the paper and hurriedly gets into his car and speeds off with his gaze still fixed on them. They read the paper and disgust and awe begins to wash over some of their faces. I impatiently asked what the hell he had written on the paper, and she reads it aloud. It said, "Come to this address at this specific time if you want to have some fun. Bring the boy too if he's into it." I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed, and that he even had the audacity to come after some teenagers like that. Even now saying it aloud, it brings back a bunch of anger that I had forgotten about. One of my friends, the kind of suspicious one of the group, actually says, "I don't know, I'm tempted." I shouted her name in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but we all started laughing as the look on her face showed that she was likely just joking. I don't know whatever happened to that perv, but I can only imagine that that wasn't his first or last time ruthlessly doing that to people. And who knows what happens when you actually show up to the address. That was just one of the many bizarre stories I have about the strange land of Hollyweird. If you ever want to go there, I urge you to be aware that it's not the glamorous place they make it out to be. Walk in groups and always have some pepper spray handy.